DC fans got really excited a couple of years ago when they announced that they were going to be doing a Green Lantern HBO Max series. It was a really interesting idea. I never thought they would do Green Lantern on HBO, but a cool idea. They brought in a showrunner, Seth Grahame-Smith, to run and oversee the show and write it and all that kind of stuff. And it was basically going to revolve around the original Green Lantern, whose name is eluding me right now. Alan Scott and I just had his name.
It was Hal Jordan.
Hal Jordan and Alan Scott is who was going to revolve around. Well, a lot of people have been wondering, hey, where are the updates for that Green Lantern HBO series? Well, here's an update. It's going back to the drawing board. As apparently the showrunner has left and they have now decided to completely retool it. It is no longer going to be about Alan Scott and Hal Jordan. Now they've decided to take it a completely different direction. They're going to base it on John Stewart, Green Lantern, and maybe some Guy Gardner in there as well. Not really sure. Needless to say, it's going to be a completely different show now. This comes to us from the folks at the Hollywood Reporter, who write, HBO's Max's long gestating Green Lantern TV series is changing gears. The drama that has been in the works since late 2019 will now focus on John Stewart, one of DC's first black superheroes. The series, from executive producer Greg Berlanti, was originally to have revolved around Guy Gardner and Alan Scott and had already cast Film Whitrock from Ratched and Jeremy Irvine in the respective Green Lanterns. Part of the creative overhaul, writer and showrunner Seth Grahame-Smith has departed the series after completing scripts for the full 8-episode season. Sources say Grahame-Smith, who signed on as writer and showrunner a year after Green Lantern was announced, chose to leave the project after weathering a number of regime changes at HBO Max and its parent company, producers Warner Brothers. So, yeah, so much for that. So if you were hoping that we're going to get one anytime soon, sorry. The one thing about this that I am a little disappointed about is that, to me, personally, the definitive Green Lantern is Hal Jordan. So I was kind of hoping that it would revolve around Hal Jordan. That being said, for a lot of people who are like the generation younger than me, for them growing up, their Green Lantern was probably John Stewart. So that would probably be good news for that. But for me personally, the Hal Jordan, I mean, when I was reading like with Parallax and all that kind of stuff, that's a definitive Green Lantern story to me, in the fall of Hal Jordan and everything. Hal Jordan was my Green Lantern, but that's cool. It's just unfortunate now that they have to lose their showrunner. They got to go back to the drawing board. This is going to be about a totally different character now. So they're probably going to be able to keep a bunch of story elements, but rework a lot in. Anyway, Rob, you hear about this changeover. What's your takeaway?
I never thought this was going to happen. I mean, look, if you're going to make a show, you make a show. I mean, and the fact that they announced this in 2019, and of course, obviously the regime changes were part of the problem. But if you're going to make a show, you make a show. If you hire a showrunner and you pull the trigger on a show, they cast this show, they would have made it. And I think that it's not surprising. A Green Lantern show is not like, I mean, if you're going to make an Earthbound Green Lantern show, which you can do. I mean, in the 70s, there's a great run of Green Lantern where Green Lantern and Green Arrow went to discover America. Yay. Basically went on a long extended road trip, which was cool. But, you want to see the Green Lantern Corps. You want to go out into space. This isn't a cheap show to make. You can't just have them running around L.A. So it doesn't surprise me. I really love Green Lantern. I mean, I really like Jeff Johns' long run on the Green Lantern comic. I'd love to see something like that done with all the different colors of the rainbow lanterns.
Yes.
I liked all that. I just didn't think this was ever going to happen. And it's not.
And it's not. There it is. You heard it here first, Chris. You hear about the changeover. Clearly, this is going to cause another delay of some sorts. But what do you think about the move?
I mean, I am a big John Stewart fan because that was my Green Lantern. The Justice League animated series run of this was so good, especially once we got into Unlimited and everything. They handled John so well. Kyle Rayner's another really great Lantern. What I loved about Alan Scott, though, for an HBO series, right? Not a CW series, an HBO series, was Alan Scott's life was messed up and tragic.
Yeah, it was not a fun story.
For those of you who might be more casual comic book fans, the term fridging, women in refrigerator syndrome, right, that Gail Simone coined, it comes from the Green Lantern stories because of his girlfriend being shoved into a fridge after she was brutally murdered. And the imagery is one of the most terrifying things in comics ever because your mind makes it so much worse than what it probably actually is, just because of the kind of suggested way she was murdered.
Right.
So for that to go on HBO, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be dark and gritty and really, really intense. But I'm also like Rob, though, where, the axe has been swinging around. I really didn't have high hopes for this. And frankly, give me a Kilowog show, you cowards. That's what I want.
That sounds like a cheap show to make.
That all CGI all the time.
A little bit of killer. By the way, it should also be noted that the Hollywood Reporter story did point out that I know the timing is interesting, but that this had nothing to do with the new leadership coming into DC, which we'll be talking about in just a little bit.
Oh, shoot. That was Kyle Rayner, not Alan Scott. That's my bad, you guys.
Oh, okay.
Thank you so much. Sorry about that.
But Alan Scott's story is messed up.
Yes, it is as well.
Alan Scott doesn't have girlfriends.
No, well, that's true too.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this changeover? If you've been waiting for the Green Lantern series, you're probably going to have to wait a little bit longer, but they are making the character changeover to John Stewart, who is probably a more popular choice for some of the younger fans of Green Lantern. So could be interesting. How do you guys feel about this? Whatever your thoughts are, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts.
Okay.
Guys, we want to take a moment and thank a sponsor of today's video, Wondery, and their new podcast, the official Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power podcast. Guys, it's time to go deeper into the canals of Numenor, the mines of Khazad-dûm, and more with the official The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power podcast. Host Felicia Day and several special guests provide an inside look at the groundbreaking series and what it took to bring Middle-earth to life. Each episode of the official podcast features exclusive interviews with the series showrunners J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay, including the very first full breakdown of the incredible season finale. Felicia also goes behind the scenes with the cast and crew to bring you jaw-dropping stories and Easter eggs that you won't want to miss. So watch The Rings of Power on Prime Video and listen to all 8 episodes of the official The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power podcast for free on Amazon Music. Download the Amazon Music app now.